So imagine this for a second. You open your Windows 11 PC, you check your storage, and something just doesn't add up. You know how much storage your drive is supposed to have, but somehow, a chunk of it is just missing. We're not talking about a few megabytes here and there. We're talking about something like 5, 6, even 7 gigabytes of space that you can't clearly account for. No large files, no apps you forgot about, nothing obvious. It almost feels like your system is hiding something from you. And the truth is, it kind of is. What most people don't realize is that Windows 11 actually reserves a portion of your storage in the background. This feature is called reserved storage, and it's designed to quietly set aside space for important system tasks. Now, at first glance, this sounds like a problem. I mean, why would your operating system take away your usable storage without clearly telling you? Especially if you're on a smaller drive like 128 gigabytes or 256 gigabytes, every gigabyte matters. So naturally, when people discover this, their first instinct is to try and get that space back. And that's exactly where things start to get interesting and risky. Because if you spend even a few minutes searching online, you'll quickly find scripts, tweaks, and so-called optimization tools that promise to unlock this hidden storage instantly. Just run a command, click a button, and boom, you've got your 6 or 7 gigabytes back. Sounds amazing, right? But what those tools don't always tell you is why that space was reserved in the first place, and what happens when it's gone. To really understand this, you need to know why reserved storage exists at all. This wasn't just added randomly. In fact, it was introduced after years of complaints from users who kept running into the same frustrating issue: Windows updates failing. Back in earlier versions of Windows, updates would often break or refuse to install simply because there wasn't enough free space on the system drive. And the worst part? Most users didn't even realize that lack of space was the problem. They just saw errors, failed updates, and a system that felt unreliable. So Microsoft decided to fix that problem in a very direct way. Instead of relying on users to always keep enough free space available, Windows would now reserve some of it automatically. That way, when an update comes in, the system already has the space it needs to download files, unpack them, install new components, and create backups if necessary. In other words, reserved storage acts like a safety buffer. It's there to make sure your system keeps running smoothly, even when your drive is nearly full. At first, everything might seem fine. Your system runs normally, nothing crashes, and you've got more space available. But the real problems usually show up later. Let's say a major Windows update gets released. Your system tries to download and install it, but now there's no guaranteed space available. If your drive is already close to full, the update might fail completely. Or worse, it might start installing and then crash halfway through, leaving your system in an unstable state. And it doesn't stop there. Reserved storage also helps with things like driver installations and system components. Without it, you might start seeing weird issues like failed driver updates, missing features, or unexpected errors. These aren't always immediate, and that's what makes it tricky. You might not connect the problem back to that one tweak you made weeks or months ago. Another thing to keep in mind is how most people use their storage. A lot of users tend to fill their drives almost to the limit. Maybe you've got games installed, large video files, downloads piling up, and before you know it, you're running at 90% capacity. In that situation, reserved storage becomes even more important. It's the only thing preventing your system from completely running out of working space when it needs it the most. Now, to be fair, there are situations where disabling reserved storage might make sense. If you're on a very small SSD and you absolutely need that extra space just to get by, you could turn it off temporarily. But that decision comes with responsibility. Once you disable it, you have to manage your storage much more carefully. You need to make sure there's always enough free space available for updates and system tasks. Otherwise, you're basically trading short-term gain for potential long-term problems. And this is why many experts don't recommend disabling it unless you really understand what you're doing. It's not that the feature is perfect, but it exists for a reason. It's designed to make your system more stable, more predictable, and less likely to run into critical issues. So instead of removing it completely, a smarter approach is to look at other ways to free up space. Because honestly, there are much better methods that don't involve risking your system's stability. For example, one of the biggest hidden storage users on many Windows systems is hibernation. Disabling hibernation alone can free up several gigabytes instantly, sometimes even more than what reserved storage takes. Then there are temporary files. Over time, your system accumulates a lot of unnecessary data, cache files, leftover installation files, update remnants, and cleaning those up can make a big difference. Windows even has built-in tools like StorageSense that can handle this automatically if you enable it. Another major area is large and used files. Think about videos, ISO files, old downloads, or games you haven't played in months. These can easily take up tens of gigabytes, far more than reserved storage ever would. Moving them to an external drive or deleting what you don't need can give you a huge amount of space back without touching system features. Browser cache is another surprisingly large contributor. Whether you're using Chrome, Edge, or any other browser, cache data can grow over time and take up gigabytes of space. Clearing it periodically is a simple and safe way to recover storage. And let's not forget the recycle bin. A lot of people delete files and assume they're gone, but they're still sitting there, taking up space until you empty it. It's a small habit, but it can make a noticeable difference over time. When you combine all these methods, you can often free up much more space than you would by disabling reserved storage. And the best part is, you're doing it without putting your system at risk. So when you look at the bigger picture, reserved storage isn't really the enemy. It's just misunderstood. Yes, it takes up space, but it also protects your system in ways that aren't immediately visible. It helps updates run smoothly, prevents failures, and keeps your system stable even under heavy storage pressure. At the end of the day, the decision is yours. If you're someone who likes to tweak every aspect of your system and you're comfortable managing the risks, you might choose to disable it. But for most users, keeping it enabled is the safer and smarter option. And honestly, if you're constantly struggling with storage space, the real solution might not be tweaking Windows at all. It might be upgrading your storage. Because modern apps, games, and updates are only getting bigger, and having enough space isn't just a convenience anymore, it's a necessity. So now I'm curious, did you even know about reserved storage before this? And if you did, have you ever tried disabling it? Let me know your experience, because this is one of those features that people either completely ignore or strongly debate once they understand it. And if you found this helpful, stick around because there's a lot more about Windows 11 that most people still don't know, and it can make a huge difference in how your system performs every day.